Okay. All right, looks like we're live. So welcome to everybody. This is, oh, it says live.
Now we're
Okay.
live, it says.
All right, very good. Thank you. This is June the 22nd, 2021. And we've got three various meetings tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll open this up at 6:08 p.m. with a public hearing. Please, may I have a roll call?
50.
I've got 508, 608, sorry.
508.
508.
508. Desiree Fowler, board clerk.
Dee McCary, member.
Charles Weiss, board member.
I couldn't hear you. Sandra Kidman.
Bob Candelaria, board president. Superintendent Wallen, introduce yourself, please.
Larry Wallen, superintendent.
Thank you.
Very
We've got, thank you. And then we've got Lynn Hoffman, executive assistant to the board. Okay, this is a public meeting and we've called it to order. And our first order of business is a presentation of proposed budget and expenditures for the 2021-2022 school year. Mrs. Vinja Warhande.
Governing Board President, Mr. Candelaria, members of the board, and Superintendent Wallen. Today, let me share my screen with you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Perfect. So our proposed budget limit for fiscal year 22 is at 17.2 million, as it's estimated at 17.2 million. So this is a net increase of about 552,000. This is because the revenue control limit increased up to 14.5 million. And the net increase is caused because our budget balance carry forward is estimated at a very conservative estimate at this point at 1.9 million. Once we complete the annual financial report for fiscal year 21 in October, we'll have an accurate actual budget balance carry forward stated here that will affect our general budget limit, and we will, when we revise the budget, you will see that. But at this point, it's an estimate. And also another reason for this increase is that we do not have a distance learning adjustment this proposed for this fiscal year 22. Moving on, here I'm showing you what the distribution of our maintenance operation expenditure line items looks like. And then moving on to our impact aid budget, we have an estimated budget balance carry forward of $5.5 million. That brings our budget limit to $11.5 million. Which is also our estimate at this point. And this talks about our capital fund, which is the district additional assistance. So here our budget balance increased by about 208,000. And this distribution shows that we've spent this budget by about 522,000 from last year, fiscal year 21. We spent about that much, and we had an available balance of 886,000, and then that with the interest and the new amount that's calculated for the DAW in capital, that all brings us to $1.6 million for the proposed 2022 fiscal year. And the classroom site fund, our available budget balance is going to be about $4.2 million for fiscal year 22. And our expenditures will be about $2 million at this point. That's what's estimated. And our federal projects are at about $1.9 million at this point. And our COVID-related federal projects are at 6.6 million. That's because for fiscal year 2022, we have SR2 and SR3 under that category. And our adjacent waste budget will be about $434,000. And our primary tax rate, looking at this is, so our assessed valuation went down to 88 million. It was at 128 million last year. This is mainly due to the plan closing. And you'll see the SRP assessed valuation is only at 2.5, used to be at 57 million. So, and our equalization base went down as well. It's at 8.9, which brought our qualifying tax rate to $3.53. And the difference in our transportation support level and the TRCL, that brings our tax rate to $1.65 in that category. Here, this is a increase for us because of COVID. This is a impact of COVID because we did not run our buses as we used to. So that impacted this line right here to increase. And in adjacent waste levy would be 50,000, and that brings our tax rate there to 5 cents. And all of that impacts our primary tax rate. That brings it to $5.24, which is about $1.34 increase from last year. So those are the major changes we've had. So, and that brings us to the end. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Vindy, can you kind of get this down to me as a homeowner? What could this mean to me
Yes, sir.
in terms of valuation and how much additional I will pay?
I can talk to because of the adjacent waste levy,
Right.
our homeowners will pay $5.67.
Or $100,000, right?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, for 100,000 home.
So if
Okay.
your home's worth $100,000, you'll pay $5 and blah blah cents,
Yeah,
25 cents.
Okay, good.
$1.67. Yep, correct.
And if it's worth 5 times as much,
Yep.
then it'll be $25.
Right.
Okay. And again, you're the primary impact on the budget was just what the transportation cost, did you say?
Yes, sir.
And so if we pick that all back up, we could reverse that a little bit, maybe.
If it all, so this year, because for this fiscal year 22 budget, we used the last year's transportation route mileage report,
Right.
which so it is pretty set at this point, and we would not see a change, but there might be if our assessed valuations, they might be estimates at this point. We may see a few changes at the time we revise, or when the county adopt this rate, they would let us know to adjust it, and we will have a report then.
Okay.
If there's changes between that time, yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, board members, comments? Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Kidman.
Hey, Vindy, can you tell me, did we prepay our insurance for this
No,
budget?
no, ma'am, we have not yet. So we end of fiscal year 21, with Ms. Wanda and I, we talked about we will pay it from that budget in 21 budget. So we have several options. But if we choose M&O, that will bring our budget balance carry forward down to what we are estimating today. So we're looking at a few options. We have not paid it yet. To answer.
We only have, how long do we have to do that?
So this fiscal year, what we are doing is we call it a credit payment. It's about $1.8 million. So we have till end of August to make sure we pay that out of this fiscal year 21.
Okay, so till end of August and benefits are about 1.8.
Yes.
Okay. So is there a reason for not prepaying it?
So when Mr. Wanda and I sat down, we looked at it. It's we paid it we prepaid it in June for fiscal year 21. So then it gave us a little discount, but it was heavier on our budget. We have to kept paying them a monthly payment. On top of that prepayment prepayment we made. So they said for you to get the discount, you have to pay it in June. But in the past, what we've done is we call it a credit payment. We could pay it in August and it'll run as a credit on our account. So we don't have to make a payment on top of that like we had to do this year. So we had to learn all that because we didn't have the history of how that worked out.
Okay.
Because as we hadn't been clear with us on that little fact. So this year, Mr. Wallen and I talked about we opt to do the credit payment. That's more beneficial for us. So that's what we.
And you can do that by August, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay.
Very
Thank you.
good. Any other comments?
Hold on. Okay, so you mentioned that Jason weighs at 50,000, right?
Yes. Correct.
Okay, and then would you say that we're overall healthy?
Yes, Mr. Wong had taken very good measures. So to get us there, I think we are overall healthy. I mean, even though it was a very rough year for us, we had all those changes into our budget. We were at, like you saw, we were at 16.2 million, I think, our budget limit for M&O, and now we're at 17.2. So because we mainly because we don't have that distance learning adjustment and those kind of extra adjustments we had last year. So overall, we did pretty well because we didn't really spend a whole lot on anything other than COVID related things we needed, that kind of. So we've taken all those measures. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All
Okay.
right. You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, if no other questions, thank you, Mr. Verhende. And that's the end of our public hearing. I'll call for an adjournment of this particular meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank
Aye.
you very much. Thank you, Ms. Verhende.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next, we'll go ahead and move to meeting number 2. Go ahead. No. Thank you. Okay, we've got the special meeting now. And our last meeting ended at 5:20 p.m. and we're going to open this one, the special meeting at 5:21. And we'll start off with the roll call once again.
Desiree Fowler, Board Clerk.
Member.
Charles Weiss, board member.
Sandra Kidman.
Yep, Bob Candelaria,
Larry Wallen, superintendent.
thank you. And Lynn Hoffman, Executive Assistant to the board. Okay, we have the special meeting ahead of us. And I think, let's see, do I have the, all right, we need an approval of the agenda, please.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Item A, approval of proposed budget and expenditures for 2021, 2022. That's an action item. I'll need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the proposed budget and expenditures for the 2019-2020 school year. I'm sorry, that is a typo. Let me redo that. I make a motion to approve the proposed budget and expenditure for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have motion and a second. Any further questions? Okay, if none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item B, approval of teacher classification pay for 2020, 2021. This is a motion. I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the teacher classification pay for the 2020-2021 school year.
Correct.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Maurer and Superintendent Wallen.
Good evening, Governing Board President Candelaria, Governing Board members, Superintendent Wallen. This is a routine item that comes before the Governing Board every year. This is the culmination of the teachers' evaluations, along with the evaluations of the administrators. In this instance, this is the Pot 012 money that is now completed, and then we will process the payment for the teachers' evaluation after this Governing Board meeting, if approved.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Item C, approval of building goal payout for 2020, 2021. I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the building goal payout for the 2020 through 2021 school year.
That motion.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Wallen.
This is Dr. Meyer again.
Oh, okay. Dr. Merrill.
Yes, sir. So this is the second part to that. The first part was the professional development, which was a couple governing board meetings ago. We just approved the evaluations. This will be the third part of the pay per performance plan, which is now the building goals. Those have been tabulated, calculated, and you have the payouts in front of you there as well for that.
Yep. What's the total on that, if you have, please? On the total payouts, total?
I'm sorry, I do not have that information in front of me. I know for the teacher classification labels, we have to pay 1/3 of that pot. So that one's about $144,000. This one here for the building goals, if I'm giving a rough estimate, I think was somewhere in the 60 to 70,000, along with the professional development. It's out of the 012 pot, the performance pay plan.
Oh, okay. Very good. All right. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Item D, approval of the transfer and hiring of Wanda Burton as the Page Middle School Principal for 2021, 2022. This is an action item. I'll need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the transfer and hiring of Wanda Burton as the Page Middle School Principal for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Superintendent Wallen.
Mr. President, members of the board, requesting the board to approve the transfer of Ms. Burton to the middle school. She is an experienced administrator with over 7-8 years of experience. She's in a school where the BT was used. She's been in Sacaton for about the last 5 years. So coming in as a seasoned principal will be an excellent fit for the middle school.
Thank you. Board members, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Item E, approval of the transfer and hiring of Lynn Hoffman as Director of Talent Management for the 2021-2022 school year.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the transfer and hiring of Lynn Hoffman as the Director of Talent Management for the 2021 through 2022 school year.
I second that motion.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Wallen.
Mr. President, members of the board, Ms. Hoffman is a seasoned employee that has worked with the board for many years. She went before an interview committee consisting of 5 people. We interviewed her, and of the 2 candidates, she was one that was chosen to take on this transformation of the HR into the Director of Talent Management. And so we're recommending that she be put in that position.
Okay. Any questions of Superintendent Wallen or any comments? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Any idea who we're gonna get?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or what are we gonna do without a board secretary?
We're reassigning and working on that. As soon as the board approves this tomorrow,
Okay,
we will advertise.
okay. And I'm assuming Lynn will help with training?
Oh, you better believe it.
This is a very, I'm sad to see you go because this is a very, I mean, congratulations, but you know, for us as board members, that's the most important position in some ways. So,
Yeah.
Thank you. Abe and I will be tag teaming my position now until it is filled. So we'll both kind of be working it.
okay.
But we will make sure you guys are covered.
Well, I'll add my thank you so much for what you've done. And she was real concerned about us. So she has personally purchased water wings and a little donut water thing that'll go around our neck so we don't sink. So I really appreciate your thoughtfulness. But Lynn, you've done a phenomenal job of keeping this herd together somewhat. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Can I also add to that? Lynn,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. Sure.
Thank you for a wonderful 4.5 years. I appreciate that you have given the board the support that we need to be very transparent, and it's just been amazing to have that type of support. And we wish you the very best. We will miss your presence, but I know that you're just down the hall.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I'll just add, I did say one of the hardest things for us, we have to realize she's no longer for a short time she is. So we got to be careful not to disturb her so much. So, all right. Very, very good. That's the end of our items there. I'll call for a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Vote
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. I apologize. We do have a vote on the floor. Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn at 5:30.
Nice. I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you very much. And now let me I'll pull this one up real quick. All right, this will be a work study session, June 22nd, 2021 at 5:31 p.m. We'll begin this and I'll start off with a roll call, please.
Desiree Fowler, Board Clerk.
Jamie McCary.
Charles Weiss.
Sandra Goodman.
Bob Candelaria
Larry Wallen, Superintendent.
and Lynn Hoffman, Executive Assistant to the Board. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. And item number 1, or A, is presentation of school board handbooks. Administrators, take it away.
Okay. Mr. President, members of the board, I believe that Miss Martin will be first. Miss Martin, are you out there?
Almost, sort of. It is me, Brian. I have been working a lot on this handbook, and we felt like it was more appropriate for me to do the presentation. I might be able to answer questions and explain, the changes. So I'll go ahead and get started here. Really, and let me start off by welcoming the Campage Unified School District community, board members. Thank you all for this opportunity to speak in front of you. For the student handbook, school year 2021, 2022, I suppose the biggest change is that we are making the shift from a more punitive approach to discipline to a more restorative approach. What that looks like is when there are conflicts that arise between students and students, staff and staff, students and staff. We will attempt to utilize the positions funded through the Stop School Violence grant that have employed Danielle June and Ben Janae. And with their training and tutelage, we will go through a process of restoring the justice, the dignity, and the relationships between the people involved in these conflicts. What we're hoping for is to achieve long-lasting resolutions to these problems, as opposed to the quick fix of punish and suspend. This will be applicable and is noted in our handbook in areas ranging from hazing and bullying to threats and intimidation, one-sided fights, mutual combat situations, any sort of circumstance that requires a relationship to be repaired, which we feel is going to be more beneficial, not only for the individuals involved, but for the growth of our school district. How this is noted in our student handbook is in the table that explains consequences for the various behavioral infractions. We are adding, first is restorative action. That language allows us to communicate to the students and the parents and the families, the teachers, and all the members involved that we're going to go through a process to try and bring a resolution to whatever conflict has arisen. And then we've also added a threat assessment may be conducted to several areas where we feel like it's appropriate to really make sure we are not just sweeping under the rug any potential threats or any situations where a person poses a credible threat to him or herself or to others. Aside from this shift in philosophy and practice that we are putting forward, there are not really any other major changes to the handbook. There will be a few revisions that it'll go through between now and publication. One thing that we looked at is possibly including some steps regarding the off-campus lunch and ways to make sure that we are being perfectly clear with how that will be handled and how we'll orchestrate students leaving and coming back onto campus. But now I will open it up to you all for any questions.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, I noticed that you're changing your meal charges. Can you give me some background on that?
Yes, absolutely. Every year before we publish the student handbook, we consult with our food management service company and ask them if they intend on making any changes to the pricing. All of that information comes directly from Chartwell's.
Okay, but the handbook made changes to meal charges, students being allowed to charge.
Yes, that is correct.
What was the reasoning behind that? Because I would like to know from a historical perspective, because we used to allow 3 charges. It was almost impossible to collect that money, caused major headaches for food service. So we went all the way down to 1 charge, and now you want to increase it to 5 charges. So I'm just wondering what the thinking behind that was.
Yes, that is correct. And the information as the changes in price also came from the cafeteria management team. That was their recommendation. I did not question it.
Okay. So I guess there's no predictions on how we're going to collect that money. What's the total that a student can charge? But is it about $15, $20?
This is, it depends on what they order, if it's a la carte items or if it's full meals, but I believe that all students will be registered through the community eligibility provision. Is that correct?
Yes, up until that option closes, I think next spring.
Right.
Okay, so there's no charges really anyway then.
Right.
Right now, correct.
So spring sometime?
I'm not sure what the end date is yet because there's still another bill in Congress working its way through on that. but we will bring you the most updated.
I just remember when we approved the going from 3 to 1 meal charge because it was so hard to collect money. So I'm seeing a potential problem in the future that we'll have to fix again, possibly. So that's why I was asking. And then
Good
I was,
question.
and then I was wondering, some of the other handbooks had the schedule changes in them. Did I miss it somewhere? I didn't think I saw the schedule in the handbook, the bell schedule.
That is correct. Historically, in my brief time here, we've not included the bell schedule in the handbook, but I can absolutely put it in there if you'd like before
I was just
publication.
wondering because there was a change made to the bell schedule, correct?
Yes, a big change. We are moving from the AB block schedule to a 7-period schedule with 2 lunch times.
Okay, and then lunch was shortened as well, correct?
Yes, that is correct. When we made the move to away from the AB block schedule, we scheduled our classes to fit the minimum required amount of minutes. And in doing that, it also made it so that we had to shorten our lunchtime.
Okay, is there a reason why the board didn't approve that schedule like we have in previous meetings? Just wondering.
The schedule from moving to,
No, the actual bell schedule.
oh, the actual bell schedule.
Yeah.
That's
I
probably,
just-
you can lay that on the superintendent, because I've never seen a board do that. But because I've only been here, this is my first year.
Okay, I'm just wondering
That would be something the board didn't
'Cause-
approve.
because I remember doing that in the past.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think part of that is so that if people aren't happy, then you can say, well, the board approved it. So
I'll
That's
remember
okay,
that and
Mrs.
use
Baker.
that though, for sure.
I will
And
own
then-
the responsibility if they
and
are
then
not happy
and
with our
then
schedule.
yeah, no, I'm just, previous superintendents have done that. So okay, so okay. Well, I guess that answers that question. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes.
On what looks like page 10, the Sand Devil Way, be kind, get involved, work hard. It looks like Page High School utilizes a positive behavior support system. Can I ask what happened to I in PBIS?
I'm sorry, what is I?
Positive behavior intervention support.
Oh, PBIS, yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's
So-
PBIS and there's also MTSS and then RTI are the
Yeah.
3 pieces. Those will all come under the Safe Schools grant process. It is my estimate right now that we need to relaunch PBIS specifically. I know I had one board member ask that question already. And so I talked to several different people. So as we begin to put in the Safe Schools grant process, those will be 3 strands that will be running in that Safe Schools program. So we're going to have to relaunch training and systems to make that work.
okay.
PBIS works when it's implemented correctly. Absolutely.
Okay, so
Definitely,
we're not.
but it's,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
it's, what I'm asking is why is intervention not a part of that sentence there? Page High School utilizes a positive behavior support system.
Really, I hadn't thought about it. We didn't intentionally leave out interventions. I think it's understood. It's part of the entire package. And if you look at the second paragraph, it's bold and underlined. Through effective classroom management, positive interventions, and support that centers on the reteaching of behavior expectations. So
I noticed that.
Right.
Yeah, I
right.
seen that. I noticed that, but I was just asking why PBIS. I mean, we put a lot of money and training and effort into using PBIS, and I was just questioning why it's not written there in the first paragraph.
I got you. No, that's just some of the minutia of the language we used without really intending to leave it out.
Okay. My second question is, you mentioned Stop Violence Grant. How is that going to affect your position?
It's going to enhance it. They're valuable trainings that we have already begun and will continue to go through in terms of not only the threat assessment management, but also the restorative justice practices that Mrs. Danielle June will be conducting district-wide.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I just clarify, we're not getting rid of PBIS? Is that what you said?
No, we're not.
Right.
Okay,
We're
good.
actually going to up it.
Okay,
It
good,
is
because
strong and thriving. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because this is one of those programs that we've had in a place for a long time now. And I think we've actually, I remember, I think we're actually to the point now where we have kids, PBIS has been around for these kids their entire 12 years. I think we're almost there, not quite.
Wow.
But, so if the program works, I would like to just keep that consistency.
Oh, it works
Yeah.
when it's implemented correctly.
Ditto.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Henderson.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And who's next on the docket?
Let's do this in a little bit different way. Dr. Hubble will do Manson Mason High School and Sage and Sand High School, middle school, and elementary. And on deck will be the middle school.
Perfect.
So Dr. Hubble.
Good evening, governing board members, Mr. Candelaria and Mr. Wallen. I'm just going to be more systematic about our handbook and just go down my list. I just want to share that as far as the changes to the handbook, we did change out the school year, and so it's going to read 2021, 2022 throughout the handbook. We added page numbers. We got rid of the word remote learning. We also use the 11 font throughout except for the header, which is a 14 font. We use the Times New Roman font as well throughout the handbook.
Wow.
We added the student expectations for success instead of keys to success. We added enrollment information on page 4. I'm sorry, I'm in a different part of the building. They were cleaning my office, which includes the floors. So I'm in the lab and the light keeps going out. So I'm in the dark now. So I apologize for that.
Excuse me, you're talking to Manson Mesa, is that correct?
That's correct.
Because enrollment criteria is saying page six on the content. I just want to make sure I was in the right neighborhood.
Yes, the enrollment information, as I stated, is on page 4. There is a piece that talks about enrollment criteria as well.
Okay, thank you.
We changed the word information into guidelines. We also changed the word blended learning classes into direct instruction. Again, just shifting just the idea of remote learning into back to the direct instruction back into the building. We deleted ADE excused absences, guidelines and procedures, but we added the absence procedures. We just wanted to be able to shorten that, be more concise, be more clear. We added information on withdrawing students, and the reason for that is because that was something we encountered this last school year, and then we added information on re-enrollment, and that again was something that we encountered this past school year. We started to highlight off-campus lunch. However, based on the last board meeting, it will remain intact, and we corrected a few typographical errors. We took out our behavior management system because we are going to replace that with a PBIS handbook, which we started in the spring. So that handbook will be forthcoming as well. So that's everything for Manson Mesa. Unless you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and shift to Sage and Sand. Do I have any questions?
I do have a question,
Yes,
please.
go ahead.
So I noticed that in Manson Mesa, we're not talking about restorative justice. Is there a reason why?
Yes, that is a process that we are going to shift into this coming school year. I know the process itself, the conversations have started. So the use of restorative circles, for example, I would like to see the process occur first. And then we'll go ahead and make that shift. And we're going to take the entire school year to utilize that process. And then in that way, we will be able to embed that into the handbook. We had some conversations with Danielle June. We talked about, as I stated, the restorative circles. We also talked about SEL. Again, the question is, how's that going to be utilized on our campus? And what is that going to look like? Is that something that we can add into the handbook? So again, it's just the use and the process of just the restorative practice. So that's the reason we don't have it in our handbook, and I applaud the high school for taking the lead on that. And again, that's something that we can also take a look at. And like I said, it'll help build the foundation for what we're building here at Manson Mesa as well. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
You did mention a little bit. I just want to ask Stop Violence Grant, how is the Stop Violence Grant going to affect your position?
It's going to impact it, first of all, through our social emotional learning. We're going to be able to offer that more on a daily basis. And like I said, we had these conversations where we talked about how we're going to start the school day. What is that going to look like for students, and how is that going to be different? And then how do we embed that into our daily practices? That's the first area. Secondly, we're looking at culturally relevant teaching materials. And again, this is going to be our second year exploring that particular topic. We did do a book study during the first year. Now we're going to expand that into our second year and explore that even further. And then the third area is just working with Danielle on, again, just looking at our behaviors and how we can ensure that our students are making sure that we're using the PBIS process, but also ensuring that we have the system in place and the support for the behavior expectations, acknowledging behaviors, and then we have a system for correcting behaviors prior to, just the straight discipline. So we want to be able to use a system approach as opposed to, the traditional system of disciplining students. And so we're going to be making that shift. And like I said, this is going to be the year where we have those conversations with teachers, with family, and with students as well. And then again, just changing that and creating that, embedding that into our PBIS handbook. And we do have an outline for a handbook. We've been working on that for a couple of months. And again, it's going to go hand in hand with the restorative practices that Danielle June has been talking about. Other questions?
Sounds like we're good.
Okay. So with Sage and Sand, we have 3 separate handbooks. We started out with a secondary handbook, and that is grades 6 through 12. But we found out as we were working through these handbooks that we really needed to separate the middle school handbook from the high school only because of some subtle differences. And that's the reason we have 3 separate handbooks. And so one area that we really had to develop based on the initial approval of our AOI, and just going through this process of the submission process, but also the virtual demonstration required to be fully approved, we really had to look at certain areas that they really wanted us to develop. So, and obviously, I'm just going to point those out. The first one is just this idea of an orientation. So the fact that we are allowing our students to participate, and I'm going to say it's a mandatory orientation to give them an overview of, and here are just some examples of the Chromebook demonstration, the overview of our curriculum on Edgenuity and Pathblazer, giving them the internet safety video, the electronic information system handout, the culture of digital safety video, the school handout, or I'm sorry, the school handbook, a student digital learning code of conduct, assisting them with their username and password for Pathblazer or for Edgenuity, an invitation to Google Classroom, the technology help desk, tutoring for math, the SSVA phone numbers, and weekly goal setting. So again, that was something when we went through this process of approving our AOI, that was something that they were looking for and initially did not see it. So that was, again, a process that we had to embed. So the other piece is that we start off the handbooks by just with a welcome letter, and then we go into the school district vision, mission, collective commitments. We go into student expectations for success, which includes parent responsibilities, student responsibilities, student actions to ensure success. We talk about the LMS. Again, at the secondary level, it's going to be the Edgenuity difference. At the elementary level, it's, again, once it's approved, it'll be the Pathblazer difference and just getting started with the LMS. We also talk about academic guidelines, enrollment, middle school, high school credit requirements, the grading system, the attendance guidelines, the attendance policy, withdrawing students, re-enrollment after a student has been withdrawn. Again, 2 things that we encountered this past school year. Here's another area where they were looking for evidence of this information, and initially we did not have this, so we had to embed this piece. Student support services, special education, related services, 504 accommodation, and the English language development plan. So those are some things that we did have to add in. Here's another area, again, that they were looking for, and some pieces that we had to add into the handbook. Academic integrity, which includes inappropriate content, objectionable materials, plagiarism, source citation, and then address when in a virtual classroom or conference. Technology, computer usage, acceptable use policy, network security, student internet safety monitoring, the indemnification provisions. And then, so that, again, that's an area that they were looking for. The others, again, we looked at other handbooks utilized in various AOIs. They included general policies and information. So for example, student rights under due process, student grievances, incidents of abuse, student conduct, bullying, dangerous or disruptive conduct, and then FERPA, district policy access. And I did include the violation table, even though they're going to be in remote learning. And I just thought that would cover us in just in the event that they are on campus whether in a conference or for services or for sports activities. So that is something that would be able to cover our liability. And that concludes the information for SSVA. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You kind of explained it a little bit, but the violation table, if this was me as a parent reading it, I would be really confused. So I don't know if you could like add some kind of paragraph that explains why that violation table is in there. Because does that make sense? Because I'm looking at this one, for example, and it says loss of off-campus lunch. Well, you don't even have a campus lunch. So if there's like a, you know, small explanation on why that violation table's in there too, I think that would clear up some confusion.
Yes, I would agree. And then we went back and forth as well. Do we put this in? Do we, leave it out? But we did have occurrences where students, SSVA students, they are on campus for graduation, for example, and we did have a couple of students play sports. So again, we were talking about how to cover them, and so again, we went back and forth. So, but I will.
That makes that makes a lot more sense. The only one thing I would also say, I would recommend that you check your handbook for typos. I found a few in there.
Okay.
But I didn't have a copy. Otherwise, I would. A printed out copy. Otherwise, I would hand it to you with highlights. But you did have a few of them in there. So.
Okay.
Just for your information.
I will do that.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So with the virtual academy, it seems like parent involvement seems to be a little bit more. And so would that mean that this would be geared to students and whose parents have more flexibility with time as far as helping their students out with school, the online schooling?
That would be ideal. We did have, in the past school year, we did have, some parents who were able to assist in the learning process. And then we had the other situation where they were not able to assist their student in the learning process. And so, like I stated, it would be ideal, but we can't determine who we get. And obviously, we try to work with the family.
So,
yes.
So that communication needs to be made aware to those parents who are going to be enrolling their students, that they need to understand that there's a lot of responsibility involved as far as being there for the students and assisting them with, needs if possible, especially, if the parents aren't tech savvy as well. So is there going to be any training involved for the parents as well?
Right, that is correct. Initially, what happens is when we have that initial conversation and they walk through our front door, we do give them an overview of the expectations. And sometimes the parents will, when we describe the various characteristics of a student in our SSVA school, they will automatically say, "That's not my child." Some of them will give us indication that, yes, my child's very responsible. My child is used to a routine. My child is capable of doing, logging in and, doing the work that is needed. So we're looking for a good fit between our school and, what the family is able to offer. Now, with that being said, the orientation also gives them those various stipulations, and we actually require that the parent be involved in that orientation process. It takes anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. So they sit through the Chromebook demonstration. We go over Edgenuity. We give them the Edgenuity handbook. We go through the handbook with them. They watch the internet safety video. They also watch the culture of digital safety video with their student. We point out specifically in the handbook where they have to sign the attestation form and how that looks like on a weekly basis. We give them the technology help desk number in case something happens to the Chromebook. We also give them our phone number in case they're not able to reach somebody at the technology help desk. So all that information is shared with the student, but simultaneously with the parent as well. And then they understand that with weekly goal setting, they're going to be in contact with the principal for the ECAP regulations, but also our coordinator. So if we have discovered that the pacing isn't on schedule, or let's say that there's no gains, they're not making progress, they're going to have a conversation to provide the interventions in reading and as well as ELA. So that we explain all that information to them. And again, they're welcome in the building as parents anytime they need to be here, but also if they just have questions. And we actually had parents and students sit through the orientation. And again, it's information overload, and they go home, something doesn't work, they call us or they come right in. So again, we make ourselves available to families whenever it's needed.
Okay. Well, I think you make a really great point on everything you just said, and should be for all the other schools as well, in my opinion. But yeah, that's good. Okay. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you very much. And who do we have next, Superintendent Wallen?
Mr. Candelaria, we would go to Desert View, Mary, and then Lakeview would be on deck.
Thank you.
Did we want to go in order, Mr. Wallen? That you had Teresa Robbins
I'm
on
sorry.
deck. I was in the hall.
You're right. I'm sorry, Miss Robbins. Jump in there. Let's do it.
Good evening, President Candelaria, members of the board, and Superintendent Wallen. If you want to reference our handbook, we have a couple revisions that have been made. The first revision is the cover of the handbook. It has been updated and revised. All of the names in the handbook, along with just contact information, updated events, calendar dates, have all been revised, and they are highlighted for you to see. On page 26, as we move into the restorative model, there is a short synopsis of just the restorative practice that is embedded into the handbook. Page 29, with the Stop It program, we do have the new Stop It Anonymous reporting system that has been added in. That's been included into page 29. We use the PBIS reward system at Page Middle School, and so we added a short little paragraph in regards to that system as well. We have included the board policy JLCD in regards to administering medication to students is one thing that we embedded into the handbook. Also, accident and emergency transportation, those have been added into page 59 and 60 of the handbook. But other than that, there haven't been any really major changes. We've just updated our pages. We are onboarding a new principal, and so our handbook will go through a couple revisions prior to publication. But we did not make any major changes to our handbook. Do you have any questions?
I do. Not a question, but I do want to say thank you for adding the calendar for the school year, the new school year. And then also, what else did I see?
Oh, schedule.
Oh, yes, and the schedule. I appreciate that. And I think that is very important for families to see in a handbook.
Okay. I noticed you took out the planner items out of the handbook. Can you tell me why?
We did. We are using Google Classroom, and the Google Classroom has a system where it has a planning system where students are able to see dates, and we no longer provide the planners or the binders for the students because we're moving to that kind of computer-based system or computer system within the classrooms using the Chromebooks, and so we removed the planner for that reason.
Okay, so how does that work with Avid?
The Avid program, the same way, you can still use they have access to Google Calendar, and you can still add homework, and parents can have access to that. That can be shared with parents, it can be shared with students. And so students still have access to the calendar option. And so it will work in that way.
Okay, because I really like the fact that, like, the one thing I liked about the whole COVID situation was that I learned as a parent where to see my kids' assignments, their homework, their classroom assignments. Once I figured out there was a to-do list, it was super easy to keep track of their stuff.
Yes.
But I do know that with Avid, keeping a binder and a calendar is considered, one of the more important things. So that's why I was asked, and we're committed to Avid. So I don't know is this Avid 2.0, or does Avid make some adjustments for this more virtual environment? So I guess that's where my curiosity lies.
Yes, Avid has moved many of their you can do it digitally. So we have access to digital notebooks. Every student, we're a one-to-one district, so it makes it easier. We have digital notebooks, all of their forms and all of their, I don't know what their forms are all available in a digital format. So they're very easily downloadable. And then using that along with Google Classroom, it's basically them students just using a digital binder.
Okay, so what about the sixth graders? Are you guys doing some kind of like training with them on? I know a lot of these kids do understand Google Classroom, but I just found that there's a couple of tools in Google Classrooms that really, I think, can enhance student success, like the to-do list and the, is it the to-do list? I'm questioning myself, but there's a button and you can see all your assignments that have not been done. So
yes, sorry.
So yeah, no, you're fine. There's a little lag. Do you train the incoming sixth graders on Google Classroom, or is everybody going to be have a retraining for like new students that might not be familiar? Just wondering.
We have a school-wide training that we provide to all of our students, and it's about, I would say, 7 to 8 days long. And every day during our skills class, we focus on a different. One day we'll focus on emails, another day we will focus on Google Classrooms, and yes, we do provide training for all of those tools.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I was just curious about student scheduling as far as if the students have already chosen those class schedules.
Yes, we go through that process at the end of the school year. And so back in April, all of the students, including the sixth grade students, went through a elective selection process. And those schedules are currently being finalized as we speak.
Okay, my only other question to that was, isn't there usually parent involvement with those?
Yes, and so we had videos that were provided for the students in their skills classes. And then we had a form, I believe, that was sent out with the student, and we did ask them to share with the parents.
Yeah, I don't think that happened.
Okay. Okay,
So-
yes, so yes, we did provide it to the students. It was a week-long process. We showed videos during class, and then we asked students to make their selection and then share that with their parents.
Okay, so I think that just needs to be more to ensure, like, maybe a parent signs something stating that they've went over this with their child to get that the approval process went through, because that never happened with some students I've heard, or parents.
Okay, we can look at our process next year to make sure that we have some parent input in that process.
Yeah, and then also, is there a time frame for teachers as far as when they're grading? Their time frame as far as when assignments have to be turned in?
Yes.
Or I mean, what I'm saying is for grades to be put in.
Yes, we have a 3-week monitoring period that is aligned with the high school's athletic eligibility requirements as well. And so our grading process is in line with that as well. So there's a 3-week time frame. As far as assignments that are due within a specific teacher's class and how they input their grades, they do have a process, and usually that's communicated through Google Classroom. They will post the assignment date, but as far as eligibility goes, we do have a 3-week monitoring process that we have in place.
Okay, I was just curious because I know, like, again, there would be students that say they turned in their assignments, and then it's like a week or almost a week and a half would go by and they haven't seen the grade change, or they haven't graded it yet. So I was just curious as far as how long they have till the assignment is graded and it reflects the change.
Typically it should be right away, but like I said, we are on that 3-week monitoring process for them to be finalized.
Okay.
Okay, board members, any other questions regarding the handbook?
I do. I just wanted to ask, out of curiosity, has the Page Middle School thought about adding community to their Panther Pride campus-wide behavioral expectation? Just a thought.
We actually had that in our handbook last year, and we actually removed it. And we will, moving forward, consider actually including that into the program. Avid does do community service, and so community service is part of Avid. And so we are a school-wide Avid. We are an Avid school-wide school, and so yes, it is part of it, but we just don't have it within the handbook, but it is part of Avid. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. And there's just a lot of good information that is being shared in the Page Middle School handbook. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, and then because I asked the other admins, I just wanted to ask, Stop Violence Grant, the violence grant going, how is that going to affect your position?
I'm actually very excited about the Stop Violence Grant because it creates a framework for us, and it supports us as assistant principals in really implementing that restorative model. And it allows us to become a little more consistent between schools. I feel like we're going to have a nice system that I believe, Danielle with the Stop Grant will create as a team, we're creating that system and that framework for us to work under. And so it allows us to just create that consistency between schools. And then also it provides us training for our teachers. It takes a different approach to really addressing behavior and really working hand in hand with the I'm sorry, the internet at the middle school is down, and so I'm walking in from home. I apologize.
That was awesome.
This
Let's
is the
vote
time
on that one.
everyone.
Yeah.
This is the time everybody walks their dogs, and so he's
That's right.
guard. I apologize for
You're
that.
good. You're good.
So yes, it's gonna make our it's definitely going to enhance our position for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate your feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Any other questions or thank you so much. Okay, who's on deck and who's in the hole?
Mr. Anderson is on deck with Desert View.
I'm not hearing you. Oh, you did. Okay. Let's see.
Mr. Anderson is on deck, or is in the hole, and Lakeview is on deck. Kevin, you're in the hole.
Thank you. Well, we'll stick with the theme of the College World Series. So I'm
Atta
up
baby.
at bat, and then
Yeah, you're at bat.
is on deck. So good evening, Governing Board President, board members, and Superintendent Wallet. It's a good opportunity, and I appreciate being here to present our student handbook before you all. Kind of echoing what Mr. Henderson said, we don't have any really major changes. We really want to change that, looking at those restorative practices and restorative justice, and replace punishment with teaching kids how to work through problems. And when they do make a mistake, walk them through that process of correcting that mistake. And so they will not make that mistake in the future, but also working with that hand in hand with PBIS, teaching the correct expectation behaviors on campus, on bus, everywhere on campus. And then hopefully working those together, we will decrease any suspensions that we may have and replace any fear of, kids getting in trouble, that fear of going back in front of that teacher or with that student, and repair that relationship. Now, one thing we have added to our student handbook on page 3 is our collective commitments. With our leadership team this year, we worked through the process of creating a vision and mission, and then creating our collective commitments that each of us here on campus will agree, those commitments that we have to each other, to our staff, to our students, and to our families. So we did add that as well. An additional thing that we added to our consequences, or not consequences, excuse me, our office interventions, as Mr. Henderson also mentioned earlier, is that a threat assessment may be conducted. We looked at some of those behaviors that may show signs of escalation. And so we added that threat assessment may be conducted so we can assess a student and prevent, or at least try to limit any further behaviors, especially when it may get to attacks, physical attacks on others, especially, students and staff as well. So we added that threat assessment in there as well.
How is this?
And another thing, I'll go through, there will be some, some changes here and there. Since we do not have a dean, we'll go through and strike out dean positions, and those responsibilities will fall on the assistant principal, myself, and then Ms. Stahl also as well. So anywhere in there it says, go to the dean, that will be the assistant principal's position as well. Other than that, there aren't any other major changes. I think one change our staff might have a problem with, and it may seem like a small change, but I'm kind of happy to see it. We are going to allow our students to wear hats on campus. That is in alignment with middle school and high school. We are leaving it up to the teachers. If they want the hats off in their classroom, they will ask them to remove their hats. But on campus, we are going to allow students to wear hats, and then also have that expectation of how to wear hats properly, and then get them prepared for middle school. And I know it seems like a minor thing, but we allow kids to have a little bit more freedom and to express themselves through the wearing of hats. And like I said, it might seem like a minor thing, but I think it's kind of a big deal. One thing I remember about high school, my high school in New Mexico, we were not allowed to wear hats, and I wore one every single day. And then when I saw an administrator, I would take it off, and once they were gone, I'd put it back on. And I think that's a battle at this time where we don't need to be fighting with our students. And I think that's a way to show them that we trust their judgment and that they can express themselves. And of course, there will be expectations, no gang related, alcohol, anything like that, it must be school appropriate. But that is a change. And I think some of our staff members might have a problem with that, but we'll discuss that with them. So any questions?
I do. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was looking, it looks like on page 8, Navajo Nation Juvenile Justice System. Are you using PBI? Yes, is this hand in hand with your PBIS? Looks like Pride?
Yes.
Out of curiosity. Okay, so is it just a copy and paste? Because the picture itself does not look very clean. It is.
Yeah. And I noticed that on a couple of things that somebody scanned in the past and they aren't very clear. And we'll work on making those. Will be one of those changes. We'll work on making that more clear.
Yeah, and it's also the same with your behavioral flow chart. I mean, it's just.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anything else, board
Yeah.
members?
Can we add the school calendar as well to the handbook? And I'd like to see that with each of the handbooks for each school site.
Yes, ma'am. We can get
And
that
the
done.
bell schedule. And the bell schedule if possible.
Absolutely.
It might not seem like a big deal, but when you have more than one child in the school district, it is a huge deal.
Yes,
You
it
have
is.
you have to have like a board of planning schedules and and always looking for that. It's just really nice to have a bell schedule and knowing where that bell schedule is and also knowing where that calendar is. And
Absolutely.
if that's consistent throughout all the handbooks, that would be a huge benefit.
Yep.
Hey, great. Great, guys. Anything else? Board members? We good? Mr. Anderson, thank you so much. You hit a triple. Didn't quite get the home run, but that was a triple. Way to go.
All right. Thank you.
All right,
Miss Warner, you're up.
great, thank you.
Get a home run.
I'll try. Good evening, President Candelaria, board members, and Mr. Wallen. We also at Lakeview only have a few changes to our handbook this year. One of the major changes in looking at last year's handbook is that I noticed we had 6 pages dedicated to attendance alone. And so whittling that down from 6 to 2, really focusing on reducing the amount of redundancy as well as the focus on consequences is important. So that was the first major change. Also going through the handbook, and anything that started with following CDC guidelines, of course, was removed. Updated the dates to remember. And then also in wanting to just pay attention to the tone of the handbook in general, there was a lot of bold and underline and exclamation marks. And so making some of those changes so that it felt a little more welcoming. But other than that, everything pretty much stayed the same. And then I did take note that we should add the school calendar and the master schedule. Any questions?
Question for you. And I did not ask Kevin prior, but violent grant, or the Stop Violent Grant, how is that going to affect your position?
So I am excited about the program, and I did have the opportunity to meet briefly with Danielle and Ben. And we're aware that it's all in very early stages of development, but we were in agreement that at least here at Lakeview, the first thing we need to do is start with building the capacity of the adults in the building. So just making sure that we have a common understanding and that we give the teachers and the staff the skills necessary to implement this appropriately.
Thank you for sharing that. One of the questions that I'd like to ask, I guess it goes to all school sites as well too, is there a contact number outside office hours in case if a student should get on the wrong bus or, just, I mean, the situation has happened. I've experienced it myself when my son got on the wrong bus. How that happened, I have no idea. But, the teacher was informed 4 different occasions that my child was supposed to go from point A to point B to point C. But in the process, what happens when we have a new parent that has, that experienced the situation? Because, by 3:30, the office is closed. Who can parents call after 3:30 in case if a student is missing or, just an emergency contact?
I appreciate that recommendation because that does happen sometimes, unfortunately, and typically they end up calling transportation and then it makes its way to the right people and we locate the child. But I will make sure that that information is in the handbook. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anything else, folks? Okay, not hearing any. Thank you very much, Ms. Warner. Home run. Yeah, nice job. And I believe that's the end of the presentations for the handbooks. Is that correct?
Penny, are you on here?
Oh, sorry about that. Preschool.
Is there any preschool on here?
I didn't see her on there, so.
Okay. She's off contract. That's probably why.
Oh,
so
okay.
Okay.
Bob, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
In Desert View's handbook had the Navajo Nation information on it. And I just wanted to ask, maybe it'd be a good idea to also add that information to each of the handbooks as well, too, as far as the criteria of attendance, or I don't remember what that was about, but I think that is important to attach to each of the handbooks as well.
Okay, good. Superintendent Wall, that's good.
That's good.
All right, good recommendation. Any other comments? Okay, thank you all very much. And I believe without anything else, we'll go ahead and
I'm sorry, can I ask one question? Kevin, this is for you. I didn't ask you earlier, and I just wanted to know how the violence grant is going to affect your position.
Sure. What I liked about it, as I thought about that question, is that idea of, as it's mentioned in our handbook, but the practice of replacing fear, uncertainty, and punishment as motivators with belonging, connectedness, and willingness to change. I think a lot of times, even thinking about me being in school, when you wrong somebody, you always, there's that fear of seeing them again because you don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they're thinking about you, if that relationship's been damaged. But when we get this restorative circles and restorative justice, it brings the parties together so they can communicate with each other. And so I'm excited about that opportunity of bringing those parties together and having the discussions and then how to fix whatever the problem is and then moving forward. Because I know even, teaching at the middle school, a lot of times, I'd have an issue with the student and then they would come back and they were a little hesitant and they thought I was still mad. And they'd be like, "You're not mad at me anymore?" And I'm like, "No, I was never mad at you." So I'm looking forward to being able to have those conversations sooner.
Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. Weiss, we good? Ms. Kidman? Ms. Fowler? And Ms. McCary? All right, we're good. All right, thank you all very much for all that good information, and thanks for all the hard work from you and your staffs. Thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and move on to item B, 2022 reentry model. Superintendent Wallen.
Mr. President and members of the board, let me see if I can share this with you. There we go, I guess, kind of. Basically, we're getting ready for launching the new school year. And if you remember this time last year, I did a presentation about a pathway to a B district. And at the end of that presentation, I said, and then after year one, we should be on our pathway to an A district. And that's the theme I want to keep moving forward with, that we are there. And the critical piece is that we're accelerating all students to grade level and beyond. So think about this. The standards are not changing. The standards are still, a third grade standard is still third grade standards. Fourth grade standards are still fourth grade standards. So students going into fourth grade are going to be, even though last year we had a difficult time, our teachers did a tremendous job in moving kids forward as best they could. When we go into fourth grade, we're going to have to be ready for fourth grade standards, because that's what we're going to be assessed on in the spring. Now, right now, that assessment is before the state board to be looked at. But we do know that for the high school, for example, it's going to be the ACT. So in building the model to accelerate all students to grade level and beyond, that's what we want to be focused on. Our schools are passionate about learning for all mission and understand that every student matters. We are responsible and accountable for the education of every student that walks into our classrooms. But guiding everything when we come back to in-person learning is safety is our first priority. And we're talking about that every day. What is that going to look like? And there are changes taking place as we speak. You know, now there's vaccinations from 12 years old and up. There may be vaccinations for others as that comes in. We are working very closely with Tuba City, with Page, with Banner, and making sure that the right people get vaccinated and put together. Probably, and I say probably because unless something changes, probably we'll be opening on August the 10th with no masking as a requirement. Hand washing will be a requirement. Distancing will be a requirement, but we will again look at the data and see where we are at that point. I've asked Lynn to set up a CWC meeting in July so we can look at the reopening qualifications and see where we are, because there's still additional guidelines coming out. So school opening will be based on guidance from national, state, and local health officials. First priority. Mitigation could include universal and correct use of masks. And if the rule is, if you can't do 3 feet, then do mask. So we're looking at that and see how that works. Correct use of mask, a revised physical distancing of 3 feet. That's the new CDC guideline. Hand washing and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and maintaining healthy facilities, and contract tracing combined with isolation and quarantine. There are proposals out there that we're looking at that are surfacing around where we can go in and we can actually test an entire classroom. I don't believe that we're ready for that yet because of the being remote and how fast it takes to get those tests to a test center and get them evaluated. But those are a lot of changes coming up in relation to that. We're expecting to see vaccinations all the way down to possibly kindergarten. We believe that all learners will, talent management, let me go back to that one with Ms. Hoffman taking on that responsibility. Talent management will implement accommodation for teachers, administrators, school staff, and students at heightened risk of COVID-19 due to their age or other health conditions. So those requests are put in and we evaluate those based on accommodations, American Disabilities Act. We believe all learners, students, teachers, and parents will be involved in accelerating students back to grade level. That's a critical piece. See, when you remediate, you go backwards. So I got to go back to where that student lost his learning. And that could be 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we don't know. But if I focus on acceleration, because I know the grade level standards are there, then we're going to bring that kid to grade level much quicker. So accelerating students back to grade level, we're placing special emphasis on the two most important things, grade appropriate assignments and strong instruction. Providing students with challenging, engaging school experiences that can accelerate back to grade level is the best mitigation of learning that's needed to be successful. That is so important. So this plan is written with the expectation of accelerating learning to grade level. Everything is about grade level, talking about grade level, grade level, grade level, grade level. Accelerated learning requires that students consistently receive grade level materials, tasks, and assignments along with appropriate scaffolds that make the work accessible. Instead of consistently receiving grade level materials, tasks, assignments, along with appropriate, instead of sending students backwards to fit in the potential gap of their learning, leaders and teachers will focus on filling in only the most critical gaps, not in isolation, but at the moment the learning is needed. They will be just-in-time teaching and scaffolding that to that current grade level. So for example, if the standard says I'm going to teach 3-digit by 3-digit multiplication with regrouping on October 12th, that's the week I'm teaching that standard, then as the teacher, through the pre-assessment techniques we're going to have available through Performance Matters, I identify that students need some refreshing on regrouping. I do that just in time, just before that week that I teach the standard. So normally in remediation, what happens is students go off to another location and they are remediated on whatever is at that point in time, not directly related to the classroom instruction that takes place. So just-in-time scaffolding is what we're after, to teach that concept and teach teachers to work with that. A COVID-19 crisis team will recommend revising the model as needed as more information comes together. So you can see, so we're going to have 2 models. We'll have in-person, preschool through 12th grade, on-site and in-person learning from the teacher of our school campuses, meals provided for students pre-K 12, and so on and so 5 days per week, half-day Wednesdays, physical distance expected 3 feet, and we can't do physical distancing, then we do masking. Universal and correct use of masks, implementation of the BT framework to standards mastery, accelerating students to grade level, and so on. That's the in-person side. On the Sage and Sand side, now here's the interesting piece I didn't know you realized with Sage and Sand. Sage and Sand, everything's at grade level. Sage and Sand, when you go online, you purchase commercial materials like Edgenuity, that's at grade level. So we have to work with students to get them up to grade level. So if you're going to go to, if you don't want to go in person, you need to transfer over to Sage and Sand from 3rd grade to 12th grade. And we begin to process through that. So that's basically what we've got in place and ready to move forward with as we go toward the year. Again, anything can change. If you're watching the news, you're seeing things changing throughout the world. So we're going to be prepared for what our health officials tell us is the correct way to keep everyone safe. And so that's basically the model, in person or virtual through Sage and Sand. Is there questions I can answer for you?
So are we expecting kindergarten, preschool, 1st and 2nd to all be in person?
Yes, all grade levels will be in person.
But does kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade have an option of not being in person?
No, they don't at this
Okay.
time.
All right.
That's correct. They don't at this time. It's more challenging, as you can imagine, with kindergarten, 1st and 2nd with iPads. Well, yeah, we did it, but everyone struggled. Kids struggle, teachers struggle. But I tell you what, watching those little kids open that iPad up and going into the classroom and going into their Seesaw program and doing things, they learned a lot of stuff. And so who knows where it could go with that.
And I'll just say, you've called a meeting for the our collaborative group, community
Correct.
group, just to keep up. And as you say, things change constantly, and so we want to have that. What, about a month before school starts? I think what we're going to be doing
Right.
as well.
That in July, definitely,
Right.
because there's a variant that's hitting some states around us right now that are. And there's actually a city in China that's been shut down as a result of that variant. So we want to be prepared. And this is a new way of living, with the masking, the distancing, the hand washing, taking care. And so we want to be sure everybody's well versed in those safety protocols.
And we're getting an awful lot of feedback as well on the young people's shots, the 18-year-olds and under, and various things too. So those dynamics are changing a lot as well. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Superintendent Wallen. Let's go ahead and move on to the next item, item C, and that's school broadcast program agreement. And for obvious reasons, I'll just be facilitating the discussion and not necessarily participating due to my involvement with the broadcast portion of what happens with Sand Devils and stuff like that. So Superintendent Wallen, Ernie Rivers.
Ernie Rivers. Are you out there, Ernie?
I am here, Superintendent Wallen. Thank you.
Hey, you want to orient us to this thing?
Yeah, President Candelaria, Superintendent Wallen, members of the board, Ms. Hoffman, I appreciate your time to let me be here. We wanted to have a discussion about something called Pixelot, and it's through the NFHS network. And it is an opportunity to obtain 2 manless camera systems, one installed in the main gym and one installed on the football field. That would come to no cost for our school district. It would allow us the opportunity to stream our events for limited to no cost, generate a moderate income on some of those broadcasts, and give the opportunity for community members to access those events that are held at those 2 different locations. So if you had the opportunity to read through any of the information, the contract that was provided by NFHS, it's actually called, the name escapes, Play On is the name of the company who works with NFHS, the school broadcast.
Now, will we still be able to do like the radio broadcasting we've been doing and that kind of stuff?
So it only affects the actual visual broadcast. So the radio broadcast could continue.
Oh,
They
okay.
have no domain over that. We could also do something within our own school, student broadcast, in which I've talked to Mr. Sharp, who's our CTE director, at sometime down the road to try to develop a broadcast program, a audiovisual program as well, so that they can film and produce those events. The contract does allow it. The contract, my biggest concern is the length of the contract. The contract is a 5-year contract and is automatically renewed after 5 years. Not sure for how long afterwards, unless a termination is put in 90 days prior to August 1st. So that's my biggest concern with it. Reading through the initial contract, my concern also was we wouldn't receive any revenue sharing from the broadcast until year 4, and that would be minimal. And then year 5, it would increase. But there is a section in there that does allow us at 0 cost to us to allow revenue sharing, and it's modest to begin with, but it does build upon itself. It does allow for our school to go out and gather sponsors, and those sponsors, if a part of that broadcast, would be 100% to the school, and if NFHS would not, or a Play On system would not garner any of those. They primarily, most of their income is driven off the broadcast of the events. And so if you look at the top 10 broadcasts for last year for NFHS, I think we had 4 of the top 10 broadcasts, including the top 2 broadcasts for the semifinals for the girls and the finals for the boys. And then the boys' final game was also in the top 5 as far as being able to generate viewership. And so I at least wanted to have a conversation. There's still probably some more information that I want to talk to the company. They do come out and do the installation. They do provide the CAD/SIC line in which is needed to utilize it. I've talked a little bit with technology about what it would take to install it. There is locations at both sites that wouldn't be too terribly difficult. I say that because I'm not the one who has to run it. Cody or technology will have to do that. But we have the technology available. It's a hardline system that we would have to run in order to do the broadcast. And Mr. Waller was going to have our lawyers look at this to review it, and so that we can get feedback from them. Not had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Wall, and that was a couple of weeks ago in which we met. So I'm not sure where we are with that, or if we've gotten any feedback from them yet.
We haven't received any feedback yet from them, but they do have it.
I know that the issue will be 5 years is okay, but it must state that the agreement is renewed annually. And so we'll work with that.
Yeah, and that would be something that the two entities, I think this is a standardized agreement that
Right.
sent to us. That is a term of 5 years, and it's something, and technically the opportunity for this ends on July 21st. But Stephen Christensen, the individual I've been working with, ensures me that this can and will be extended because of our interactions, and I keep him updated. Told him I was going to the board to have that conversation. He's supposed to follow up with me in the next 2 days to find out where we are in the process, if we're going to continue to pursue this or if it's a dead issue.
Well, and I learned something. Thank you. I thought that we couldn't do the broadcasting, but because I still would like to continue the radio broadcasting as well.
Yeah, I think that's an invaluable part of our community. They've become to rely upon that. And so I'm excited about the fact that we can still continue our students. Well, we can go back and create, because I know at one time we did have some type of broadcast program here, but we can go, and it's something that we can utilize sometime down the road. Any questions?
I'll say this because I had a misunderstanding as well when after Mr. Wall, Superintendent Wall and I talked. And so I just want to, and I'll say it again because you've said it a couple of times already, the radio station would not be impaired or hindered at all from doing what they've always done. The only thing is now we'll have a competitor that has a video component.
So there wouldn't be a competitor as far as the actual broadcast of play-by-play. At this point, it is only a broadcast of the video portion of it. And so it would be similar to last year when Mike Riley went down to the state playoffs and
Right.
broadcast, where NFHS does have a broadcast, but they also probably have someone in Kansas City who's doing the game and it's delayed. And so our broadcast at this point would not have an audio component with it. It would just be simply, it turns on, it videos the game, and then it shuts off. But we can sell sponsorships, we can, and do other things like that to be a part of that if we so desire down the road.
Oh, so like I said, I do remember talking to the gentleman about that, and then him saying if they had a team, they would be here, but if not, then they would pick up our audio broadcast. And so so you're saying that would be the same way it'd be going on going forward.
So that may be the exception to the rule. However, my intention is to file with the NFHS network a student
Perfect.
so that we're protected and that the school will have first opportunity of right of refusal. And so it will allow our students to broadcast before the others would. But there's also exceptions for those as well with the radio broadcast. Even though NFHS has all rights to state playoff games, they also have rights to regular in-season games. They cannot restrict the audio portion.
Good.
They can restrict the video if they have someone and they want to come in and film the Tuba City Page High School. If we're not an NFHS network affiliate, they can send their crew here to do that. And the only crew that exists in the northern part of the state, and it's really more of the eastern part of the state, is in the White Mountains, and that's Sports Zone 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that exist really anything north of Phoenix.
Okay. Good.
And we have a good partnership with them anyways, and they typically will come and broadcast 1 or 2 games a week of the northern schools. And it's 1A all the way up to 3A typically.
Great.
Any other questions in regards to this?
I have a question.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
great is the internet coverage? Just out of curiosity.
So it's like most typical. I would like to think that the high school probably has a little bit better, or our school itself, just because of the service and the amount that we pay for it than maybe a home does. It will not be a wireless it will be a hardwired system. And so that'll increase the ability to be able to broadcast it more reliable. I know one of the biggest complaints about the state playoff games this year was the quality of the broadcast through NFHS, the delayed, but a lot of that is not because of NHS. Now the quality of the audio probably was NFHS because they don't broadcast on site, but the other part has a lot to do with the school and their internet system and how much they're able to broadcast and the quality they're able to broadcast. And I know that we did it through YouTube, we did it through our website service as well, and that we were actually very effective in doing that. And the quality, at least when I go back and look at the YouTube quality on my HD TV at home, it's almost like I'm right there.
Could agree with, I definitely could agree with you because I remember being on site at the school and the quality of the internet was just really bad. So like you had mentioned, the games were delayed. I mean, the broadcasting of the game did have its delays and dilemmas, but I mean, overall, I think that the quality is, a priority when it comes to broadcasting.
And this is more of a supplemental for those who aren't able to attend. And it's also, I'm pretty transparent things. It's an opportunity for us to raise money within the athletic department. It's not going to be a free service to our community. There will be a charge. There will be a pass in order to access this. My goal is to fill the gym, and it always will be, but it'll be an opportunity as well. I made not even 5% of what I normally would have made in gate receipts from last year. So as you can see, I'm in a need to bring in our patrons into the seats again. We're going to have a brand new gym in all essence, new bleachers, new walls, new banners. The maintenance is doing a lot of work over there, a new floor design, not a new floor, but a new floor design. We've written some grants to try to get some monies for the wrestling. And so we're hoping that sometime down the road, we'll be able to highlight all these things once they're done and get the community back and bring them back into the things that they enjoy. Athletics, but then also with the return to school next year, we're super excited to get all the kids back here, and we're hopeful to do that. So,
okay, question for you. Do you have an idea, a ballpark of what you're going to be charging out of curiosity?
I do not right now. It'll probably one of two things. It'll either be a season pass for it, and it'll be comparable to what our season pass would be for our families if they were to buy a physical season pass, or it'll be a game by game. And so physical season pass right now is $150 for this season. And that is for up to 5 individuals, which is a significant discount than if you were to bring 5 individuals to 9 different games at $5 a piece. And so that's closer to $400. And so it would probably be comparable to what we do our season passes. I haven't looked at that yet. I wanted to review the legal aspect of it before moving forward. But again, we would only get a percentage of that. We would not get the full.
Correct.
If we do this the right way and we have the man hours, I guess I should say, most of our monies would come from sponsorships and not from the actual prescription. So if we sell a $150 prescription the first year, we'd only get about $15 off of that.
Okay. Now, this broadcast is pretty much also including other curricular activities, right? Extracurricular activities such as, a band, concert, or.
So we can only, for these two systems, Pixelot, we can only do it in the venues in which it happens. Now, but what we can do is set up a camera, and through NFHS, we can also broadcast graduation, band concerts, other things like that through this. But the Pixelot cameras themselves, once they're mounted in location, they can't be taken down and moved. And so for graduation, at the football field, you will be able to film that. You'll be able to film other events tracked down there, band competitions, whatever else. So if we wanted to take it further to other venues, It just requires an investment on our part and some quality broadcast equipment in order to get that done. So it is a platform, and we decide outside of the athletic events. The athletic events in this contract are automatically a fee in order to view them through the NFH network. But anything that's not an athletic event, we determine whether or not that's a fee. So if we want to broadcast the band on the NFH network, we can certainly do that. We can also do it through our YouTube channel. There's other venues in which we can utilize to do that we've actually already developed the pathways to, and that our community has started to become accustomed to, such as the board meeting through the YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Mr. Rivers, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Next item of business is ASBA Law Conference. Superintendent Wallen.
Mr. President, members of the board, I would seriously ask the board members to consider trying to attend the law conference this year. It's going to be in person in Phoenix. September the 8th is the pre-conference, and then the 9th and 10th are the dates of coverage. One of the themes and issues will be equity, will be behavior at board meetings, will be citizenship, and those kinds of things. So we would be getting the latest and greatest on those issues. And Desiree may know more about if that's been discussed before the board of directors for ASBA, but I think it's going to be a very powerful conference when we're looking at equity, cultural relevance, boardmanship, based on the things that are happening throughout the state.
Can I just correct you? There's actually going to be 2 days, 2 full days of the pre-conference, and that's the first time this is happening. So they're adding an extra day for pre-conference. And I know I've seen the agenda through our board of directors meeting, but there is going to be a lot of great information that's going to be shared, and the agenda looks amazing. So I do encourage each of our board members to attend the pre-law and the law conference, and Bob and I will be attending the delegate assembly as well too. So I think it's going to be a great event for Page Unified School District board members, superintendent, and to attend this event. And I'm excited to see the names of those that are planning to attend. So it's going to be great.
So mark your calendar that July 5th is the deadline, so that we can be sure to get rooms established and all that set up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Wallen. All right, let's go ahead. Our final item of this discussion, policies, BBA, BCA, and norms and protocols. And I'd ask this one just to be added so we can, we do make a commitment as a board to constantly review this. And then I'm looking forward also to the meetings we're going to have at our retreat that'll go through some of these things. The other thing I failed to put on here that's very pertinent to it is our governance handbook. And so I just wanted to go through a few things because of just how important this is for us to, I guess, wrap our heads around. And BBA is just about the responsibilities. BCA is really ethics. And then norms and protocols we put together that would support BBA and BCA. And I just wanted to just look at a couple of things here, and one that I ran up against and have run up against before, and and we've had this conversation, several of us, and one of them was in our norms and protocols says, hey, let's follow the chain of command. That's for us, but it's also for anyone you talk to that reaches out to us. And the most important thing we can do is refer them to their chain of command. Even if they don't feel like they're getting the right responses, it's still up to us to direct in that way as well. So I'll just mention that one straight out because there's a lot of questions going on anytime we have changes and those kind of things. anything that's going on. Our go-to is to make sure, first of all, that Superintendent Wallen is well aware of what's happening, and then again, it's up to us to get back with him if there's any kind of things that come to us from his staff or from anybody else. So I'll mention this as well. Don't spring surprises on other board members or the superintendent. Surprises to the board or the superintendent will be the exception and not the rule. There should be no surprises at a board meeting. We agree to ask the board president or the superintendent to place an item on the agenda instead of bringing it up unexpectedly at the meeting. And it lists BED, BA, and B1750 along with that as well. And it will help us, especially, and I'm going to throw myself under the bus here, because what this helps us do is to get by any additional time that we take from long board meetings to begin with. And again, we have access to Superintendent Wallen before every meeting, and it's going to be really important for us to remember, take advantage of that. And if you don't have something under your belt, like I said tonight, a lot of information on the financial side, and if I don't understand it, I need to try to get with Ms. Verhande, and I'll ask Superintendent Wallach if I can do that, so I can get things cleared up. If I have specific questions, I can try to get them cleared up before our board meetings. And so that'll help us a lot. And so I said I was going to throw myself under the bus. Hey, this is a long board meeting. I was thinking it would be a lot longer, so thank you very much. Because in item number 12 are norms and protocols, avoid marathon board meetings. And I know all of us have experienced these things. There's just an awful lot of things going on for sure. But I want to try to help us with that as much as I can. And then just a couple of other things I'll mention. Has to do with whenever we make decisions, we understand we do that as a board, and we do commit to support the decisions that are made here at the boardroom. And so to make sure that we do support that, because I may have a very strong opinion about something, but I'm not going to go outside the boardroom and now advocate for something completely different. And then again, accept responsibility for confidentiality in appropriate matters, especially in those dealing with personnel, and the divulging of privileged information that could cost the district money, support, or public confidence. And this is really important when we are dealing with personnel issues. I know we've had some of those here recently, and I inadvertently said, hey, let's bring in certain records. And that I was really on the edge of violating FERPA potentially. And so I think we have to really understand those kind of things when we go into our meetings. And I know, put on the spot, it's all up to us to really keep ourselves in check and those kind of things as well. If there are complaints, we refer them to the right authorities at the school. And so I think that one's a real good and thing for us to do. Let's see. Avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest, and refrain from using our board positions for personal partisan gains. And that's one reason I was going to say, because of this broadcast thing, I don't normally ask for salary or anything, but Ms. Brown is very generous and does does give me I guess I'll call it a stipend at the end. I don't ask for it, but for that reason I was going to abstain, because I thought we'd be going head to head in that situation. Knowing that, it helps me quite a bit. And take no private action that will compromise the board or administration, and respect those confidentiality things. And I just pulled a few of those out. I don't want to, extend it, but I do want to say that, man, when we're working with regard to changing, and I see now we're going to move towards an A school, it's going to be important for us to be together and to represent that. And that means if we have disagreements, okay, we have disagreements, but then once decisions are made, we move forward with it. Because there's one thing that's really, really important. We've got student achievement that tops any other agenda I might have. And so I've got to learn to trust and move the district forward as best I can try to be part of an effective team focused on that direction. And I've got to partner with staff. There's no doubt about it to enhance positive changes. And then one thing I just read in the governance thing that I really like is perpetuate a legacy of positive culture as people come and go. And I know that within any kind of organization, there's going to be a lot of folks that have conversation, especially when changes are made. May not like the changes, but ultimately as a board, we've got to be kind of set a tone to provide a positive direction, provide positive culture. And I think that's certainly doable. And again, I just wanted to lay some of those things out as kind of a preface to our meeting that we're going to have here in August, our board retreat. And so anyway, I just wanted to say that, and I'm going to just go down the board, down the row here, and just say, if you've had a chance to look at these BBA, BCA, and also the norms and protocols, I'd ask you to just go ahead and express yourself. And like I said, I'm just laying out what I feel that we should kind of strive towards in how we function. So Chuck Weiss, if you have anything.
I just think that, yeah, we need to be professional up here and be respectful of each other and work together as a team.
Okay.
That's, I mean, pretty much all I got.
Okay. Ms. Kidman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have anything to add to what you have to say.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Fowler.
Number 3, communication. I feel like communication is a priority as board members. One of the big things that I constantly hear from ASBA attending multiple conference and trainings is that when you have 5 board members that can communicate with the superintendent, you know, just having that relationship, a strong relationship, I think that really does change the growth or the academics also beneath the superintendent. So that is always my goal. Personal goal is to have an open communication with us as a board, and then also with the superintendent. But more so, I think it's also coming to board meetings without the secret agenda or without the surprises, but coming as being prepared and doing the homework that's needed to be successful.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Ms. McCary. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please. Thank you.
I guess we're really here for number 1, is we're here on behalf of the children's interests. And to be able to advocate that, I think one of the most important things, like Desiree said, is the communication. And also, we have our handbooks, and we just need to go through those again. And one of the most important things I find that's very vital, it's very important, is the trust and the very close working relationship with the administration. Like you said, Bob, if we don't know, they're here for us to answer some of the things that we need. And we can't go wrong, and we're here to represent the children as well as the communities that, you know, we're here for. A quality education for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McCara. And Superintendent Wallen, as you know, you've had so much experience with this, and the first thing we talked about as a board was when you came in to audit our board to make sure we were staying on track and get us focused on student achievement, and you did that early on in this year. And I'm not going to ask you to give us a grade yet on how we're doing this year, but any comments about you know, what we've been talking about with regard to the policies and kind of where we're going?
No, I appreciate the comments you made and each board member made. The critical piece that I would point out in BBA, and it's sometimes needs a further explanation, is as a board, you're the most unique board in this country. You are invested with legislative functions where you're making policy. You're invested with executive functions where you're putting those policies in operation, and you're invested with an appraisal function that involves the determination of the efficiency of the school district. No other board around the state is going to have those three functions all in one. And that makes you very unique. And therefore that makes you very strong in building a strong school district for that. And if you look at that same policy, it says the board is authorized under the laws of the state of Arizona to adopt all needed policies and regulations of the organization, evaluation, and governance in the district. So those three pieces in one legislative body is very unique, very powerful, and needs to be very strong in how we move forward with that. And I think the thought has gone into the ethics, and the pieces that have been presented is extremely important to a positive operation. When you interviewed me and brought me in, you said we want student achievement to change. And that's everything I do is about student achievement and making that change. And so that is something that I need your support on. I need your out there actively lobbying for that support and in the community and giving us those opportunities to make that achievement take place. Most people are going to want to do that. Some people are not. But again, we work through all that collaboratively and collectively to get to a point where we are following a mission to become a better school district. And that means students are learning every day that they're in school. Thank you.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much. And I'll just say, with grades and all that, we've seen some grades from AZ M2. But I'll always really refer a few people to one thing. We graduated 90% of our class this year, and that is just an achievement. I sent some articles over to Superintendent Wallen. I may just have Abraham or Mrs. Hoffman forward those things, because it talked about graduation rates across the country as a measure of success of schools and what it meant to a student to graduate. And in our area, New Mexico, Arizona, and the various demographics, they're shooting for 90%. Their average is 78.7%, I think. And that was a survey taken last year. And I saw that, I said, can that be? And with a 90+% graduation rate, we compare with the best schools in the state when it comes to that. And I think that's really important for us to look at. So anyway, I know we're not there yet. I know we're on a path to it. And have there been a lot of changes? There's going to be more. And what I've been so encouraged about is just the changes that have led to the discussion from pre-K all the way through 12 in terms of how we're going to attack it. And I don't think we've ever been in that spot before. So I'm excited about that portion of it. And at the same time, it's just we want folks to really enjoy where they work. And I know that that's not it 100% here. And I know a lot of folks are, anytime there's change, there's going to be some questions, but we just really want to create that environment. And I do think it starts with the board. So again, thank you very much. Yes, Superintendent Wallen.
Just to add one piece on that graduation rate. We have received our, AZ merit test scores, and just like everybody else in the state, they're not very good because of all the difficulties the students had. But the most important thing is every grade level, almost 80% of the students' parents brought them to school and they tested at school, because you have to test in person. That kind of commitment on the part of our parents is amazing and needs to be celebrated. And that commitment comes from the teachers getting the students involved and getting the students here to be tested, because you had to be tested in person. And that is totally awesome. You can look at results and do whatever, but the big piece is that is a involvement piece that is highly, highly recognized. And I thank all the parents. I thank all the teachers for getting those kids here and getting that testing going on, that we had that many kids be tested at a time that was extremely difficult for everybody.
Okay. Hey, thank you. And once again, thank you, board members. It's been a long evening. Yeah, Mrs. Kidman, go ahead.
This is not too off topic, but when are the AZ Marist results coming
I can't hear you real well for some reason.
When are we going to be able to see AZ merit results? Did you say that?
We've just received the electronic files. We haven't received the parent reports yet. Those are supposed to be coming in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So is it embargoed until then? Or that's,
I'm not sure about the word embargo, but we haven't received their parent reports yet.
okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And we're at the point of this long 3 meetings, and I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn at 7:17 p.m.
I second the motion.
I have a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, board members. Superintendent Wallen.